Good morning, Girish.
Yeah, hi, good morning. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Shailesh?
I cannot hear you.
You said no? Okay,
Oh, you know what?
Okay.
Oh, namaste, Phil. Namaste, Philip. Can you hear me?
Namaste, yes. Hello, good morning. You hear me?
I think there is something. Maybe the you.
Yeah, we're still setting up a little bit. Can either of you speak? Hello? Could you speak, please, Mr.
Hello, hello.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Good?
Yeah, good.
Yeah?
Yes. Yeah, we can hear you in the room. So still waiting for people to show up. But okay. Thank you. Okay, Jillian.
Mhm. And my sound is okay?
Yes, it's perfect in the room. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, good.
We have Uma joining us. So just to get organized, will Jillian or Shailish introduce the speaker?
Yeah, maybe we can. Namaste, Philip. This is Shailesh Pawar.
Namaste.
Um, I think Jillian would be here to introduce, but we'll just wait for a few minutes.
I can do the introduction.
Yes, please, Jillian, that will be wonderful.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, we'll
So,
just,
are we ready?
yeah, maybe we'll just wait for like a couple of minutes, maybe.
Wait a couple of minutes. Okay.
Yeah, it's 10:59, so we'll
Yeah,
just,
we'll wait a couple of minutes. I'm just not going to show my face today.
that's okay. How are you feeling now?
A little better. Each day is a little better. Yeah, yeah. So, a little more of a production than I anticipated, but it's okay. It takes
Are
time.
you up and about?
I mean, I'm walking. They make you walk the first day. So, yes, it's all going, I think, according to plan. So that's good.
How are your cats doing?
How are my cats doing? Oh, they're great, Shailesh. They've been very good. You know, they can't jump on me, so that's I, had to sort of protect
Yeah.
myself from their jumping on me. But yeah, it's good. I have a friend coming in to scoop and feed them because I'm not going to be able to bend over for a month. Really
Oh, wow.
frustrating. How are your cats?
I'm very sorry to let you know that my cat, which was with us for 11 years, he passed away last month.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and it was traumatic for everybody because I've been working from home for so long with Vandana also, and he would be always around, and he passed away.
Oh, it is so traumatic when we lose our
Yeah.
pets that way. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
so
so
sorry.
it was very tough. Yeah, I still get, sometimes a feeling that he's around or something, but
Yeah, yeah,
I guess 11 years, he lived a good life.
yeah.
He introduced me to the cat world. I was not at all a cat person. Now we
I
have
know
some,
I didn't know until recently you were such a cat person.
yeah. Yeah, 18 kittens we rescued last year just from our subdivision for near my home. I mean, put up we kind of what do you call it? Took them inside the home and trained them and everything. And then we put up for adoption and all got adopted. Like four of them got adopted like within half an hour. They were so pretty and good looking.
Oh, well, so you don't have any kittens left?
No, no kittens. But looks like there are six more kittens we have to rescue soon. So I don't know. We are talking about that. Maybe we might go today out to see.
Yeah, yeah. See if you can replace your beautiful
No, we
cat.
already have two or three cats, and one of the mama cats which you got fixed, she has adopted us now.
Okay, okay.
So she will come into our home. So she's around us now. So we are kind of like Gold sent her his what you call it, and probably a representative from the cat world to take care of us.
Good, good.
Anyway, yeah.
Will somebody be monitoring the time and if I go too long, stop me?
We let people go too long, Phil.
What's that?
We just let you go on.
Oh,
We're happy to have you.
well, I'm sure there's a limit.
Good to see you, Uma.
Oh, hi.
Hi, Uma.
I cannot
How are you?
wait to read your book, Karmic Relief. Your new book.
Yes,
I cannot wait to read it.
good.
I think Balakrishna, who is Phil, is one of the devotees who used to be here, who now moved to Colorado to be with his family. He already read it months ago and loved it.
Oh,
So
good.
I hope he'll be here today.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe one more minute, Shailesh. We're
Yes,
getting a
yes.
lot
I
of
think we
people
can
on
go ahead
board.
and start the introduction.
Okay. I know people often start late,
Yeah.
join late.
But yeah, we can, like Jyoti was saying, there is no time limit, Philip. So,
Well, I have one.
yeah, I'm sure you have.
Lunch is kind, the hunger pains will
Uh-huh.
usually get us. The stomach growls. Yeah. Uma, you've shared your screen and we're unable to fix it on this end at this moment. Could you please stop your share?
Unshare your screen.
No, you gotta go into the settings and change the settings so that participants cannot share their screens. If you want help, I can help you. Yeah, good question. In my recollection, it's in the meeting setup where I set the meeting up. Uma,
Yes.
can you please take off share? You are sharing your screen. Can you stop sharing your screen, please?
Okay, I will.
Thank you, sweetheart. Because it takes over our view here.
Okay. Got it off.
No, still on. Well, is it still on, Girish?
Yeah, it's good.
It's still on according to Girish.
Oh, now it's gone.
Got it. Thank
That's
you.
good.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Fixed. Thank you, darling.
Okay, thanks.
All right, then maybe we should start.
Sure.
So, hi everyone.
Hi.
So I am delighted to introduce Phil Goldberg. I have known Phil for many years. He is a longtime meditator. I started in the TM world in the 1970s. The Bhagavad Gita is his go-to guide in life. And he, over the years, has become a prolific author of books related to Hindu practice and philosophy. Some of you, I think, may know his book, American Veda, which came out in 2005,
Ken,
which looks at all the ways in which Hindu practice and philosophy has impacted life in the United States, from health to music to meditation. We do have it in our library. I think one of our devotees took it out this week to read it. His latest book is Karmic Relief. And it's a very practical, accessible book looking at karma, which is a word that we use frequently without always understanding the different complexities and ramifications of that word. And it's very timely that it's come out at the same time as Swami Vedananda's more academic book that he actually talked about in a lecture at the New York Center recently. So it's very timely, and I'm just going to let Phil take it up from here.
thank you, Jillian. Thanks for the kind introduction, and thanks for the invitation to be with you today. I wish it could be in person. I was there in person when American Veda first came out, not in 2005, as Jillian said, but 2010.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
And so I was there 15 or so years ago, which is when I first met Jillian. And then I was in LA, and then she ended up in LA. And we reconstituted the friendship. And I'm pleased that she thought of inviting me. As that little background suggests, my life was deeply impacted by Vedanta, mostly Vedanta, all the teachings from the East that I started exploring in the 1960s. And that led, to the subsequent decades of incorporating the teachings into my life and integrating them as best I could. And in writing about them and the ongoing assimilation of Vedantic ideas and practices from the Hindu and Buddhist traditions into America, which seems to be my karma in this life to be focusing on and doing whatever I can to assist that integration of East and West that I think is one of the most important developments in American history, certainly in American religious and spiritual history. Um, I tried to document that in American Veda, and in the 15 years since its publication, I've only become more convinced that history will show that to be a terribly important development in the life of American culture, and especially American spiritual culture. Excuse me. One of the indications of that for many years is or what has been the adoption by Americans of certain ideas and principles, concepts, and certainly practices from especially Vedanta and yoga streams of Indic thought and Indic, all the insights and revelations of the rishis that came to us first through books and then through the various swamis and gurus and yoga masters who've come here, and secondarily through all the prominent Westerners who were affected by these teachings and studied with the early swamis. You all know the history of Vivekananda coming here and essentially setting the template for all the gurus who were to come, and the lineage that you represent, or that is the Vedanta societies, which I've been privileged to speak at in a few locations, and whose publications very early on in my explorations really set the stage for my own personal subsequent journey. In any event, one of the things that I was touched by and moved by very early on in my path was the subject of karma, and also the related subject of dharma. Um, and of all the teachings that I absorbed so eagerly as a young man, the one I struggled with most was karma, because I always, Vivekananda's notion of practical Vedanta always appealed to me. So I was a practical guy, and I like to go where the evidence pointed. And most things, most of the ideas and concepts I learned, there was good evidence. They held up to reason, and they held up to my own experience when I began to take up yoga and meditation practices. Exactly what was predicted came into my life. But karma was a tough sell for me, because when I looked around, it didn't look like people really did reap what they sow. There were too many innocent people suffering, too many bad actors not getting what seemed to be coming to them, not being held accountable, living good, long lives while other good people suffered. So it took a long time for me to come around to giving it the benefit of the doubt. Uh, and over time, what I saw happening as the teachings from the East became more and more integrated into American life was one of the signs of that was people using the word karma more and more. And it would show up in different places as further evidence that these teachings were affecting ordinary Americans and how they saw the world. After American Veda came out, that process seemed to accelerate. And over the years, I saw karma showing up in news reports, on TV sitcoms, in the sports pages, in various advertisements, on T-shirts, and popular music. And at a certain point, it became more and more obvious that karma is kind of a concept that people are drawn to and use. And I kept thinking, well, maybe I should write about it because it's also frequently misused and misunderstood as I understood it. And then I thought I should do some research. And I actually had the title Karmic Relief before I had the idea for the book. And then a few years ago, Taylor Swift came out with a song called Karma. And I thought, okay, that does it. Well, if somebody of her fame and stature, this would be like, in the 1970s, John Lennon had a song called Instant Karma. And, he was probably where the Beatles were certainly even more famous than Taylor Swift in those days. So that was further evidence. Decades later, the superstar used it. And so I decided to do some research and write the book. And partly because the way it was misused irritated me as much as the fact that it was used pleased me. And so I wrote Karmic Relief. I don't have to define karma for this audience, but when you ask the average person, what do you mean by karma, or do you know what karma means? 9 times out of 10, if not 99 out of 100, in my experience, they will resort to a familiar aphorism. Usually they'll say, well, it means you reap what you sow. Sometimes they'll say it means what goes around comes around. It's a kind of shorthand, an easy word to use for a very complex concept. But it's very convenient, and people use it as a shorthand for cosmic justice. They have an intuition that that there are laws of cause and effect in the universe, and they apply to us. If you ask somebody a little more sophisticated, somebody who knows science, they'll invoke one of the laws of thermodynamics and say every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And essentially applying that law of physics that applies to uh, measurable interactions among, forms of matter and energy, to human behavior, and say everything we do has an equal and opposite reaction and comes back to us in some way. That's the basic understanding of karma, and it's not incorrect. If you look at the literature from the Gita and the Upanishads and all the commentaries, including, as Jillian mentioned, Swami Maidananda's recent, very thin and very substantive book, and very scholarly. But it's also misunderstood. And so I want to call attention to some of the ways the average person and the above average person always often misuse the term, because you'll hear it in conversation all the time. First of all, most people use it as a kind of when it has to do with something bad happening, like somebody is getting, there's retribution for the bad things we do, the unethical things we do. So when you hear it in the news or you hear it in the sports, it'll be something like the Atlanta Braves are losing games, and or somebody, key players are injured, and they'll say it's their karma. When they're winning, they don't say it's their karma. Only when the bad stuff happens. If you listen to the popular songs, and there are well over 100 of them with karma in the title, it's usually, you done me wrong, and now karma's going to get you. Or all this bad stuff that's happening to you, it's because you did something bad in the past. It's used that way in sitcoms and everywhere else. But of course, karma doesn't only apply to the bad things. It is my very good karma to be with you today. It is our good karma to have hot and cold running water in our homes, and all the minor little things that we take for granted. This is good karma. When good things happen to us, when our business thrives, that's karma just as much as it's bad karma when bad things happen. But people don't think of it that way. They just focus on the bad things as a matter of convenience. So that's one way that I'd love to, that one of the reasons I wrote the book is to correct these misunderstandings. Actually, in Taylor Swift's song, she seems to get it, because she doesn't just talk about the bad karma, she talks about little things in her life that is also karma. The other thing that's often ways it's naively understood is it's misconstrued as a form of determinism or fatalism, whereas in truth, the theory of karma or the doctrine of karma, the laws of karma, are an assertion of our free will, of our eternal freedom, and our responsibility as people of free will, as creatures of free will who get to make choices. It's not that everything is determined by, yes, everything that happens is the result of past karma. But the past karma was created by our freedom of action and how we react in each moment when karma comes to our door is also an assertion of our freedom. I'm going to quote Vivekananda. Karma is the eternal assertion of human freedom. Our thoughts, our words, and deeds are the threads of the net which we throw around ourselves. Nets can be very useful. Nets can also be prisons. And so this freedom is an essential part of the understanding of karma, and so is responsibility. It places the responsibility for everything that happens in our lives squarely on ourselves and tells us that whatever happens may be the result of a complicated series of actions and words and so forth from the past. But here it is. It's been delivered. We get to choose how we react to it, and how we react and what we do in each subsequent moment will determine the karma of the future. We are also free to upgrade our karma, to change the balance sheet that has built up in the past, so that when the karma of the past, when undesirable karma comes back to us, we are better positioned to deal with it effectively by changing our character, by changing our behavior, by putting good actions and good words and good deeds into the pool of karma. We are therefore modifying in each moment what our future karma will bring to us, or what the karma of the past will pay, the dividends that it pays in the future. The other thing, and this is very clear in the Ramakrishna Vivekananda lineage, we tend here in the West especially to think of karma as a kind of judicial system of rewards and punishments. This is a little, for me, a little too much like Western religion, having a theology, having been this sort of baseline of American culture for so long, where a deity is handing out rewards and punishments, keeping an eye on all of us, like, omniscient judge or magistrate. But if we conceive of the divine as less personified, less anthropomorphic, and karma as something more like a law of nature, like something in physics, like gravity. Gravity is always present, but we only think of it when something falls or when we send somebody to the moon. But it's an eternal law of principle governing, how matter operates. Karma is very similar. It's built into the fabric of creation as a lawful system of cause and effect that applies not just to material objects, but to our very thoughts and energy that we put forth in our words and actions and intentions. So it's more like, if we think of the things that happen not as rewards and punishments from the past, but as morally neutral words like effects of the past, consequences of the past, results of the past. Just as a scientist would talk about the results or the effects of one action leading to uh, others. It takes the judgment out. We experience it as pleasant or unpleasant, or as desirable and undesirable. But karma itself, you can think of more as value neutral, in the sense that it's energy being processed through lawful cause and effect. And the other model, and the one I think appeals to most people in this audience, is karma as a kind of educational system. Swami Maidananda, in my talks with him and in his book, uses the term evolutionary model of karma, where what happens to us is not, well, let me put it this way, that it's more efficacious for us, more useful to us, to think of what happens to us not as a reward or a punishment, but as a lesson. Something where there's something to be learned from the karma that comes back to us from past actions. And that learning, the lesson plan, to think of whatever happens as part of that curriculum, enables us to learn the right lessons. And I emphasize learn the right lessons, because we can easily learn the wrong ones and make further, unwanted decisions or undesirable decisions. But learning the right lessons and then putting different kinds of actions into place changes the course of our own personal evolution, and can accelerate our spiritual growth, our movement toward moksha, that we're all on the path, all on the path of. Or we can not learn the right lessons and have to take the course over again, because karma will keep coming, keep repeating until we learn the right lessons and matriculate to the next level in our ongoing growth and development. So we can think of it as an educational model, not a system of reward and punishment. And that is in keeping with what I said before of karma, of our having freedom of choice and free will, and karma being a system of personal freedom and responsibility. A couple of other things, ways that karma is misused, before I open it up to conversation. One is that karma is not an excuse. What do I mean by that? If you travel in certain spiritual circles where karma is kind of part of the understanding of how life works, you'll often hear things like, or at least sometimes hear things like, something bad happens to someone, or something in the news happens, to a group of people, a disaster or whatever. It's usually something negative. they'll people will say, "Oh well, it's their karma. Nothing I can do about it." Um, very often, too often, you hear karma invoked um, as in a way that comes across as callous or uncaring. Those poor people, oh well, it's their karma from a past life. So we can we allow ourselves to be indifferent using karma as a rationale. You see, I, well, when I hear that sometimes, it really irritates me, to be honest. And, and uh, my thought is, if you were walking down the street and somebody tripped and fell in front of you, you could say, "Oh well, it's his or her karma," and just keep walking. But most of us instinctively would stop to help. We wouldn't. Yes, it's that person's karma to have tripped and fallen, but we nevertheless stop to help. We don't say, well, that person has to learn a lesson, and if I interfere, that person won't learn the right lesson. So I'm doing that person a favor by not stopping and helping. And you hear that sometimes in everyday life. Well, yes, unfortunately, people are suffering because of such and such, but it's their karma, so I'm going to stay out of it so their karma can play out. I don't want to interfere. But think about it. Um, if that were the case, if that were the right reaction, where would the world be? We wouldn't, it wouldn't be a very cooperative universe or civilization. And if you're indifferent to the suffering of others or callous, uncaring, and don't do what if you're in a position to help, if you don't do it, what kind of karma are you creating for yourself? So it's to our karmic advantage to be compassionate and to be caring, even though the people who are unfortunate and suffering have their own karmic history. So that's a personal pet peeve, but it's one that comes up a lot, and one I think you could all relate to. I mean, when you know the history of the lineage you're part of, and when Swami Vivekananda and the early monks in the Ramakrishna tradition started to do good works in India and became more engaged in uplifting the poor and doing service work, they came under criticism. And one of the criticisms was, you shouldn't, it's these people's karma. You're monks, go stay in the monastery. But they changed the course of things in India by being more responsible in that way. Um, another thing, uh, we often think of karma, the average person thinks of karma only in the sense of the actions we take. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. But one of the beauties of the Vedantic traditions and the literature that came from it, and the discourses that came from it, is they understood and understand to this day that we're built in layers, that there are levels of causality. Our actions are underpinned by our thoughts, our minds, our intentions. You see a lot in the literature of karma about the importance of intention. So the same action on the surface can be, what you see being done can look the same, but two different people can be doing it for two different reasons, two different motivations, different intentions. And that makes all the difference. I mean, to state the obvious, if if somebody, if a mother of a hungry child uh, shoplifts some food to feed the child, that's very different from somebody stealing for the fun of it or at gunpoint, or something like that. It's theft, but the intent changes things. If you have a car accident because you were careless, that's one thing. If you have a car accident because you were swerving not to hit a child, that's a very different thing. So intent and circumstances matter. This is obvious. It's even in our system of laws, where there's, in a court of law, a person's motivation and intention matters. But it's also true of karma. It's not only intention. The tradition goes deeper even than that. And it says, well, what gives rise to our intentions? What gives rise to our motivation? Which then leads to our thoughts, which leads to our action. Well, a lot of the literature on karma focuses on changing our fundamental character, changing our state of being, our state of consciousness, so that our thoughts are more constructive, are more benign and beneficial, and therefore our actions will be. So there's layers of causality and volition that matter. And finally, there's one other thing, ways that often karma is misused. You'll see something happen and someone will say, oh, your house was broken into? Oh, you must have broken into a house in the past. Or you your spouse betrayed you. Oh, you must have done that in a previous life. It's a very facile way of thinking, that as if everything that happens has one cause in the past. Sometimes it does. Obviously, there's certain things. If you insult somebody and they get revenge on you, there's a cause and effect. If you speed and you get a speeding ticket, there's an obvious cause and effect. But most of our actions, most of the things we do and say are so complex and so multifaceted and the result of so much in the past, so many interactions, so many decisions, so many choices, so many responses to what other people do in response to what we do. It's so complicated that the idea of attributing something in the present to one thing in the past or a past life becomes absurd. And so one of the memorable passages in the Gita is where Krishna says to Arjuna that the ways of karma are unfathomable. And in some translations, it's impossible to understand or difficult to know. I like the word unfathomable. The nuances, the details can't be understood by our feeble little human minds. And so we have to just accept what comes to us without wasting time and energy trying to figure out the one thing we did in the past. Those are some of the ways karma is often misconstrued and misconceived. The one other thing I want to emphasize, and most of my new book is about what do we do about our karma? How can we upgrade our karma? What do we do when bad karma comes to us? Uh, what are the systems of ethics and proper behavior in the Eastern systems that can guide us to creating better karma in the future? And one of the reasons I turn to those traditions is that they uh, understanding of karma is baked in. So when you see ethics discussed and proper action being discussed and the concept of right speech being discussed, it's understood that the laws of karma are in effect, and by behaving and speaking and thinking in the correct way, we are creating better karma in the future. And the other reason those systems, like the yamas and niyamas in the yoga sutras and the guidance for proper behavior that you come across in the Vedantic literature, one of the reasons they are so efficacious to me is they don't just say, do this and don't do that. It's not just on that level. And it's certainly not do this or God will punish you. It's not just how to act, but also how to think and also how to be, how to be a different person, how to present oneself, how to reorient our basic character so that when we act in the world, it's understood that not every action do we stop and think about. We respond spontaneously in life most of the time. So the tradition doesn't just say, make these choices, do these things, don't do those things. There's a lot of that. But it's also be this kind of person, change the structure of your own consciousness so that the thoughts that arise and the intentions that arise and the actions that follow will naturally and automatically and spontaneously produce better karma, be more benign and beneficial and kind and generous than it would be. It's like they understand that we have a kind of inner GPS and we can reprogram that guidance system so that our default setting is right action, right speech, right intention, and therefore create better karma. That notion of changing consciousness is a critical aspect of this. This is where sadhana comes in because, well, that should be obvious. So those are some of the things that I find it useful to bring out. And just looking at the clock, I want to open it up because I much more enjoy uh, responding to questions and hearing what you have to say than listening to myself. So
Philip,
how do we do
thank you so
this?
much for
Jillian, Shailesh, how do we handle the question?
uh, yeah,
Yes.
we'll just open up for the discussion, and just would like to know till when we can go, because you said you have somewhere to go, or
I can be at least 20 minutes or
okay.
whatever. I just
Okay,
have to
thank
be
you.
somewhere at 12:30.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Wonderful. Such a well thought and well-rounded and balanced talk. I mean, just amazing. Thank you so much for providing the thought process. I have my own questions, but I will ask at the end. I will let others speak. But thank you so much, and we'll definitely would love to invite you in person, and have a couple of sessions. Maybe a Saturday retreat or something, if
It
you
would
have.
be fun. It would be great fun to be there
Because
again.
today the Zoom, we have quite a few people, but when in person we have quite a few people. Would definitely there's so many devotees in Atlanta from different backgrounds. Would definitely love to hear you. So thank you. And I think
Yes.
Uma has a question.
Please. Hearts, I'm so happy to see you again coming
Thank you.
to our center, and all the memories of the past come back. How we started our discussions and your books on Vedanta and all that. Now, regarding the karma, isn't it a saying, a proverb in at least my language, that you reap what you sow? Now, if you look at this idea in practical affairs, practical experiences, it makes sense that if I hit you, my instinctive reaction would be to hit you back, whether it's verbal or physical, mental, is normal, I would say, usually. But then thinking about the consequences and how this cycle of you do this to me, I hit back, then you do it again, I hit back. If we think about deeply about how this vicious cycle will continue and never stop, then I think our Vedanta and the ideas of Vedanta help a whole lot. That first, you, by yoga and all those yamas and niyamas, you train your mind to think not in tit for tat, but as a moral or ethical discipline to get rid of such thoughts and start anew in your own way and set an example as to how to react, not react, respond calmly and in the sense of longer term relationship, to let go, in other words, and just be your noble self. I don't know how I can do it, but that's my intention. What would you say to that? If we can do it.
Well, thank you, Uma. I appreciate it a lot, and I think there's great wisdom in what you said. And it comes back to it in my mind. Let's use your example. Somebody hits somebody, and you're right. The natural reaction is to hit back. Let's change it a little bit and say you're a witness to somebody hitting somebody else.
Mhm.
Like you're a parent and
Yeah.
one child hits another child.
Mhm.
In either case, the instinct may not be the most karmically efficacious thing to do,
Mhm.
but we're creatures, and sometimes instinct takes over. So suppose it does, and you swing back,
Mhm.
or you do something, you hit a child because to punish the child. And then later you think, well, what did I do?
Mhm.
I made a bad situation worse by my reaction. So if you're conscious and you thinking clearly,
Mhm.
you can then take actions and say the right things and set the right example, even though your initial reaction may have been not ideal. But that takes a certain character and a certain clarity of thought and consciousness. And unfortunately, when we look at the world right now, we don't see that much.
Right.
And honestly, it breaks my heart when I think of some of the public. Don't get me started, but some of the most public figures, the people who should be role models,
Yeah.
doing exactly the wrong things
Yes.
to teach young people how to be in the world. And that's a scary and sad development in our collective culture, karma of life in America today.
Mm.
But in our personal lives,
Mm.
I'm I recently watched the PBS miniseries of The Count of Monte Cristo.
Oh,
If you, it's a classic
yeah. Yeah.
story, written by the French writer Alexandre Dumas. It's been made into movie. It's beautifully done from an artistic point of view. But to me, with karma on my mind, I'm watching a depiction of karma and choices being made. And a big part of the story is revenge.
Mhm.
The main character, terrible things happen to him, and he's innocent. And yes, he spends 15 years in prison for something he didn't do. He was So when he gets out, he sets out to get revenge on all those people. He's like the agency of karma in the world, bring. And you think, and when I thought about it, I thought, okay, these bad people are going to now be held accountable because he's out to get revenge. But what is he doing to his own karma by choosing revenge
Right.
instead of something else? And I thought of Nelson Mandela, who was also imprisoned, for 27 years. And when he came out, instead of revenge, established the Truth and Reconciliation process in South Africa with Desmond Tutu, and the whole history changed. Instead of armed revenge and rebellion, they had
Mhm.
truth and reconciliation. So those things, if in the case of somebody hitting you, you have the presence of mind to say, I can change the course of my karma and this person's karma by behaving in a different way, by making different choices.
Mhm.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yes.
And so that brings us back to our default setting. and the importance of sadhana, the importance of our spiritual repertoire, of our practices, of our spiritual education that changes the way we perceive and the way we think. This is what makes Vedanta and yoga and all the systems practical, because we have means to change our consciousness. So if you are if you are tense and agitated and worried and fearful or angry, and then something like somebody does something to offend you, or someone uh, rear ends your car, or as you said, somebody hits you, your reaction is going to be very different from if you happen to be calm and content
Yes.
and not worried, not anxious, and relatively happy and relatively clear-minded. And your mind is in a quiet, appreciative state of consciousness instead of a worried and agitated one. Your reaction to that will be very different. You're much more likely to behave in a way that creates better karma going forward and that you won't regret. And that gives, so that's where that default setting comes in, as I was saying, and that's one of the great lessons.
Yeah.
If you delve into the thinking about karma and in the traditions that we turn to. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shailesh, I would like to make a comment.
Yes, please.
Okay. So thank you, Phil. This was great as always. One thing that came up for me recently, I had a relative visit very recently, and I was reminded of the fact that this is a cousin of mine, reminded of the fact that she grew up in a very physically abusive home, and that how it impacted the family in multiple ways. She's now in her 50s, and it's very clear to me and this is not just this person, but I think in general in these situations, the courage that it takes to do exactly what Phil is talking about changing the course of our own consciousness, but changing the course of our lives and the course of others' lives. And it's been talked about oftentimes how people can break the cycle, right? Because often family abuse becomes a cyclical thing, right? What was
Yeah,
ever done to you, whether it's a conscious reaction or an unconscious reaction, it continues, often unconscious. It continues in that those same negative actions are put upon the next generation. And having seen it myself, the kind of courage and wisdom, even in people who don't necessarily have a spiritual practice, but a mindfulness and an intent and courage to
yeah,
change the cycle, which is not easy when those things are built into us from a very early age.
yeah.
How do we learn to do it differently? And I'd like your comments on that, because that to me seems a very karmic situation.
Did
Did did you hear that, Phil? I think you
home or
froze.
somebody else's, and I missed the last thing you said, Jillian.
Oh, just that it is, to me, it is a very strong karmic condition that even if people don't have a religious or any kind of spiritual
Yeah,
practice, that it requires this kind of courage to
yeah.
break the cycle.
And but it also takes awareness and consciousness to even have the motivation
Mm.
to
Yes.
that cousin and anger and retribution, but had the consciousness to do something different. If I understood what you were saying, it was noisy, and and that's the kind of decision we all have to make. And sometimes we have the consciousness to think it through. We have the social support to think it through, all of which is the result that the unfortunate karma of having suffered the way you described. There's the other aspect is also the good karma of possibly having a support system, of having learned certain things and taken the lessons to heart to be able to have the courage to move forward. Because not everybody in that position is that way. And that's how these cycles perpetuate themselves. Somebody has to say, for one thing, it's our good to understand these dynamics of things like uh, abuse and the cycles that they create. Let me, I'll tell a story. This is a true story, and I always think of it. Um, Years and years ago, I was walking on a dark street in New York City when suddenly, out of the blue, there was a knife pointed at my face and somebody holding me by my jacket. I was being mugged by an armed person with a knife on a dark street, and I didn't see any other human beings. It would have been terrifying. And they wanted money. Um, some the good karma is I had just the day before gotten back to Manhattan from a 3-month meditation retreat. I somehow was so calm inside and had the presence of mind to not panic. I'm not saying this to brag. It was just, it shocked me that I did that. And I just didn't react. And I just said, I, I said, well, I only have a few bucks, and I went to my pocket and the guy got more threatening. And I took my hand and moved the hand with the knife. And I said, you don't have to, that's dangerous. Here, I'll give you some money. And the guy was so shocked by that he was like flustered. And he took the money, but he actually said, hey, these are dangerous streets. You shouldn't be walking here. And he walked me to the corner to a busier street.
Oh my
And I
God.
laid, and then I almost collapsed
Oh
in,
my
when the shock wore off. And I said, I can't believe I did that. It was just automatic. But I had just come from this meditation retreat. Had it been another time, God knows what I would have done and how I might have made things worse. And it's always been an illustration to me of this business of restructuring ourselves. If you look at the yamas and niyamas, you'll see things like satya, don't tell lies, asteya, no stealing, ahimsa, of course, which is kind of a baseline,
Yeah.
fundamental, no harm, don't do harm to anybody. But you also find things like in the niyamas, cultivate saucha, purity, cultivate santosha, contentment. Those are not behaviors, those are not ethics. They're not about how to behave with other people. They're about how to cultivate a state of being so you're more likely to do the right thing. You're going to be more content. Tapas, you'll have more self-discipline, et cetera, et cetera. So I just interviewed a scholar of Hinduism that maybe you know, Anantanand Rambachan.
Ah, yes, yes.
I interviewed him for my podcast, um, and my podcast, which it's called Spirit Matters. It just, there's over 100 interviews and it's all free, so you may want to look at them. Some of them are people you recognize. And the one with Anant will be posted in about a month. But he has a book out called The Way of the Sant, the tradition of the Sant in India, and how a Sant behaves and how we should behave. Um, and there are complex systems of ethics in the Vedantic traditions, and they're very worth exploring. But to me, one of the wonderful things is that the tradition recognizes that there are layers of causation even below the choices we make in our actions, and this cultivation. You see it in some of the comments of Swami Vivekananda. I have his collected works, and I just looked up karma, and you see it in there. The past karma constructs our character and our decisions and our choices and how we take care of ourselves in the present can change our character for the better. So, thanks for that, Julian.
Now go ahead, ask. You have a question.
Well, kind of interesting what I hear from you. Last week we had another Swami talked about impulsiveness and what it happens, how you sort of react to it and what you do.
Mhm.
So listening that seems to me breaking your own cycle and not to become a victim of reactions all the time yourself, but break that cycle, become a like aggregate way saying that, okay, I am going to change myself. I'm going to become more accountable, just like you said something, how you meditation help you to that point in time to react to it. So that if we do keep doing that, I think you are able to break that karmic cycle
Yes.
continuously. We all have reactions, actions. We interact with other people, more so with your own personal relationship or personal people, much more harder to break that cycle, I find. And
Yeah, I know what you
really
mean.
to
Yeah.
implement that is to just to become yourself accountable all the time. Sit down, think about it. Okay, this is because it's so easy to become impulsive, especially when it involves emotions.
Yeah.
So it's very challenge, but I think that challenge can be overcome when you become accountable yourself and break that cycle.
Very good. And you're also setting a good role model, a good example for the people around you if you exhibit that. I mean, one of the challenges in writing my book was wrestling with the subject of collective karma.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very interesting. One of the things you learn when you dig into it, and uh, Swami Maidananda was very helpful in this regard. You realize the basic understanding of karma, basic, you know, description of it throughout all the literature that and the teachings that were born in India, whether they ended up in the Buddhist stream or the Vedantic stream or the Jain stream, you know, all the, you know, that was born in the Vedic tradition. There's a certain, you know, the basics of karma are agreed upon, but some of the details, there's actually more difference than you might. Certainly, there was more differences than I thought there would be. And one of the areas where people have different points of view is whether there is such a thing as collective karma. And because there's a school of thought that says only the jiva, only a soul, an individual with volition and consciousness can create karma, and groups don't have that. It's only a collection of individual karmas. But at the same time, we know that if we're in a family, everything we do, each member does, affects the other members.
Mhm.
And if we're in a community or we're a member of a group, anything done in the name of that group affects every member, and the things the members do affect the group as a whole. And you could say the same thing about a country. Everything each of us does in some little way has an effect on the whole country. And of course, the things some people do have a huge effect on the rest of us and the culture. So there's something, whether it's technically collective karma or just individual karmas interacting in a certain way, we all have some responsibility. And certainly within the context of our families, maybe our neighborhoods, we have even more so. And it always occurs to me that um, when people take to heart proper right action and ethical behavior, they not only affect their own karma, but they are serving as teachers to others, whether they intend it or not. And especially young people who are looking to their elders to teach them how to be in the world. So I think what you just said is terribly important, and it has ramifications beyond our own well-being to the well-being of our loved ones and our fellow citizens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So it's now, hi, this is Jillian again. It's now about 12:17. And Phil, I want to thank you. We could take maybe one more question if there is another one,
Sure.
pressing one, and then I can close and let Phil continue with his day. Any other questions or thoughts?
So if you have time, just a quick comment to make. So, Phil, you said that we have this because of our good karma, we have clean toilets and running water, and and that's kind of a gratitude. And most people will acknowledge that oh yeah, it's my good karma,
Yeah.
but then they will not ask that question, what should I do now so that in my next life or going forward, I will have the same thing. And most people will not do that. But people who are aware of their spiritual practice or spiritual or do spiritual practice, they will say, you know what, at least let me not do bad karma. That's my perspective. So that at least not bad things happen to me. And then some people will go forward and say, you know what, let me do some good to the world. So that not just for me, but for someone else also. And I think these are the different layers of personalities.
Yeah.
And slowly we evolve through them, becoming a better human being. And that's
Yeah.
it.
You
Thank you.
know, I agree. If there are certain bottom lines, and one of the bottom lines that you come across frequently, and you come across it in the the lineage of Ramakrishna Vivekananda a lot, is karma yoga. If you read Vivekananda's book on karma yoga, if you read the sections of the Gita where Krishna's giving Arjuna lessons in karma yoga of acting uh, without ego and without attachment to results, acting generously, acting with kindness. These are bottom line ethical values that, as you say, um, will have positive impact on us going forward, not just the next incarnation, but the next week, the next month, the next year, and the effect on other people, being selfless, being kind, these that's a formula for creating right action. But then it gets a little more interesting because people can say, okay, I have to be generous, so I'll leave a bigger tip at the restaurant, or I'll give, somebody a birthday present. I don't really want to, but I want the good karma. Well, that's not as good as really being full in the heart and generous and kind because that's your nature. So, so even doing good things can get complicated because of our intentions or what's going on inside. Or I'm going to give a donation because then people will think highly of me. That's different from this is important and I'm going to get, even if no one knows I gave it. It's a different motivation. That's why in some religious traditions, you're expected to be charitable and not call attention to it. And so karma gets complicated, but there are certain basics, and uh, and honestly, if just following ethical guidelines, if teaching people do this, don't do that, was enough, the world would be in a very different place because we've had, principles of ethical and moral behavior for thousands of years. It's just, but we all know what we should do, but it doesn't mean we do it. And sad to say, in the history of religion and, even the research I've done on, the teachings from the East coming to America, some of the people who taught us about karma have misbehaved. And that's unfortunately, it is unfortunately, there's a history of spiritual teachers and leaders and gurus just doing very unethical things. And those are the very people who are supposed to teach us and often say the right things, but don't necessarily do them. So we have to look at a deeper level than just do this and don't do that. And hold people accountable, as you say, including ourselves. It's unfathomable.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shailesh.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, I want to thank you, Phil, so much for doing this, and I want to expand upon what I should have said in the opening, is that you post regularly on your Substack account, and I encourage people to sign up. It is initially free to read what Phil talks about, and usually he is putting his knowledge of these teachings within very practical day-to-day terms, including baseball. Phil is a deeply religious person when it comes to baseball. So, and uses baseball as a metaphor in many cases.
It's a
I know
very
all
useful
about
metaphor.
I also want to point to the fact, I don't know if Phil's doing any more, but he has done some wonderful spiritual tours to India that many people have benefited from. He
Yeah,
also,
we've suspended it for this year, but stay tuned for the future.
excellent. And he also wrote a book that is really deeply practical for our times, Spiritual Practice in Crazy Times. It's not a
Oh, yeah.
long book, but it really does encourage us to look at ways that we address our spirituality within the context of what's going on in the world, which can be very depressing and unfortunate these days.
And is even crazier than I thought it would ever be when I wrote the book.
That's right. And when did you write it, in fact, Phil?
It came out sort of right at the beginning of the pandemic, to
Okay.
my surprise.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So that, among other things, and all the many things that are happening in our world. So I second Shailesh's thought that I hope you do come to Atlanta sometime. We tried for it this time. It wasn't the right moment for you,
Right.
but I do hope you come and visit us. And thank you so much for this today.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Jillian. Thanks, everybody, for your comments and for your gracious welcome.
Thank you, Girish, for
Look
setting up.
forward to it in the future.
Thank you.
Please come back.
Yeah,
I
please
will.
come back in person.
Mm.
Namaste,
Thank you.
everybody.
Namaste.
That was